All right, we've fixed our mess. Well, this mess anyway, and we haven't been able to fix any of the other messes. This is Hot Coffee to Siggy. You have tuned in to the auto smash up channel. We're sitting here enjoying a nice little brew and ready to entertain you, or entertain ourselves anyway.
What is our brew today?
The brew featuring, we'll start with the brew while we're playing the theme. We've never done that before. It's a pretty imaginative mix that I came up with, I think. It is half Starbucks Morning Joe, which is a favorite. You provided that to me. I appreciate that. And I cut it with a donut shop decaf.
Any particular brand, or is that the brand Donut Shop?
Is there? It's like this bag in the store as a donut on it. It says Donut Shop blend.
Is that the one, the donut, like with the sprinkles on?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, that is. I bought some of those cake cups in the past. They actually had a dark roast cake cup thing I had seen in the store at one point. That might actually be like a Keurig house brand.
It may be like
something.
a Green Mountain. Is that the brand?
Green Mountain. I think they're affiliated with Keurig.
I think
Keurig
you're right about that.
owns them.
I saw it in the store, and I've been tending to try to reduce my caffeine intake a little bit. So I try to cut the morning brew I make with some, like a kind of a basic decaf medium roast that wouldn't interfere too much. I tend to favor the dark roast for the main coffee. And the one I've been on a kick on lately is Starbucks 1971. That's their
that's
blend
their.
that they have. And it's a darker roast. It's not the darkest of their dark roast, but I've been having when I've been going to Starbucks. But I've been getting it a half calf with their decaf pike.
Unfortunately, they don't have any of that 1971 blend at my office, so I've been drinking whatever the coffee machine spits out.
Well, I don't have a bag of 1971 for the house here, so I went to the supply cabinet, and what I came up with was the bag of Morning Joe you brought last time. So I thought I'll try this, and the Donut Shop decaf is kind of like, it's a medium roast blend, probably like your basic, similar to your Starbucks Pike medium.
Okay. Is that guy still on that Morning Joe show? That guy wasn't?
Oh, the one on MS.
It's
now MS Now. Right?
Yeah, the communist. What's his name?
I know you mean
Joe Scarborough.
Scarborough, that's it. Yeah, I guess he's still on there. Yeah, he and that blonde woman that he was on with.
Yeah, her father was like a diplomat or something with something in the Nixon administration. Maybe.
Wow, you know more than I do about that. I don't listen to much into any of those shows in the morning. I tend to listen to the local TV. My wife likes to get the weather. She's big on the weather. And thank goodness she is, because I never know the weather. So I have to turn to her. Well, we're already violating our rule of trying to make this a shorter podcast. But we're sort of on the right track here by talking about TV, because it's a good segue, and it's a good word there, right? What do you call those words? $5 words?
That might be a $10 word.
Wow, segue. I don't even know how to spell that, but I know how to say
$7.50.
Okay, I'll take it. Change for $1. Jamin had this idea a few weeks back when we were talking to brainstorming on what we were going to be doing for our next episode, because we had no idea. And you had the idea that TV, we were talking about TV shows, and kind of like maybe humming a theme song to something. And it's like, well, we should do a podcast about TV shows. Maybe Diane, my wife, had that idea. I don't know. We were talking.
I think she also had said it.
Yeah, I know I had nothing to do with this, so if you like the idea, that's why I was not involved. But I agreed wholeheartedly with it, because it gave an idea and I didn't have to come up with one. But we thought, TV themes, are there? I mean, we weren't even talking about in terms of Siggy's. We were talking about, well, what are notable TV themes, and who, has the most long. We were talking new shows don't really have themes anymore, theme songs, because they want to get right into it because it's all about the advertising, and they want to jam in as much as they can jam in. And now there's like a whole lot more advertising in the show, so they don't want to waste any of the time on theme music. So you don't, and it costs more money to develop theme music, I guess. So they'll have stock kind of like musical footage in it and stuff like that. And then it's probably like kind of like we do for the podcast here. It's royalty free music that we find that very smart, good artists, we're grateful that you'll put them out there and then we can tap into them. And I try to give credit to them in our YouTube and our Spotify list. But anyway, now you have that. But back then, we kind of lamented we don't have too many commercial jingles on TV commercials, and you don't have TV themes that are memorable that kind of break out and become hit songs on their own. And a lot of them did when we were kids, and even before that.
Yeah, who could forget the theme from Hazel?
How did that go again?
Well, later.
I'll put you. It's funny you would say that because after we started this podcast idea, we put together a playlist, and we cleverly called it "Where Everybody Knows You're Siggy," because probably one of the top theme songs that come to mind for TV shows is the theme from Cheers. So we built, as we do with every podcast, we build a Spotify playlist and try to build some songs into it that would support creating an episode around them. So we have one, and we'll link it once we eventually publish this episode. We'll put a link out there. It was a little more challenging to put together a playlist for this, where we could find a list of songs that were signature songs of the artists that made them that were TV show themes. And that's sort of the rule we had for this podcast. And it's like there's plenty of TV themes, and even some were done by star people that you might recognize. Some of these you may recognize, some of these you may not, but you'll most likely definitely recognize.
Funny, I just thought of two more.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Wow,
breaking news.
This is hot coffee and a Siggy breaking news.
Although one of them we'd probably debate on. The other one, I'm not sure if we'd debate on it or not, but it just popped into my head right now.
What are they?
Well, one being the theme from the Monkees TV show.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
I don't know if that was necessarily their signature song, but
well, let's see. That's right. We don't have it as that in our list,
but it sort of could be. And the other
certainly well known, yes,
is the Love Boat, Jack Jones.
Jack Jones. Oh, that's a definite. Jack Jones. He passed in the last year, by the way, I believe, which is sad to say.
Although maybe some people might say his big song was "Call Me Irresponsible," but I think
we argued about that once. I still think now,
but the Love
people
Boat,
would
that's
recognize
pretty
that,
big.
The Love Boat,
and I think some people may not even realize that was Jack Jones, but it was indeed.
I wonder if he actually was on the show
I'm sure he was. Every other
maybe
like Hollywood
along with like
celebrity,
people like Joanne Flug and
singer
Artie Johnson
and
things like that.
Sonny Bono. I mean, everybody was on that show.
I love that show. I had no life as a young teenager,
so
it was on Saturday nights, as I recall.
We'll
so I didn't have much going on Saturday night.
I mean, that
if we have a revival of the Love Boat, you can sing the theme.
There we go.
But that's a great one. I don't think the Monkees fit because. I'm a believer. I believe.
But it just still that. Like,
is there a Siggy?
Here we come.
Oh, there's no question. If they didn't have any hits during the show, they would have definitely the theme would have fit. I'm sure it was sold as a 45.
And they weren't even. See, that was the thing. The Monkees was a show about a band. They weren't even really a band. It was just a show about a band, but they became a band.
Was it Don Kushner who?
Yeah, that was one of those. What did they call them? The prefab four. They were trying to trying to create a rival to the Beatles. And he had all of those brill-building songwriters, including Neil Sedaka, who just passed away. We were talking about him earlier.
Give a moment of silence.
In fact, he wrote, I can't remember which song it was that he wrote for the Monkees, but he did, him and his songwriting partner, I think Howard Greenfield, they did at least one or two songs that the Monkees recorded, because that was Kirshner's thing. He'd sold his publishing company to Screen Gems, and Screen Gems had all this. There's like the Bewitched theme.
That's out part there. Of that. That's on Spotify if you wanted to listen to it.
And that's a brill building, but he had all those songwriters under his umbrella. And when he sold his publishing company to Screen Gems, all those people were under contract to him, and he used them to write, whether it was TV themes or doing stuff for the Monkees or other songwriting acts. What they called Don Kirshner at one point? Well, they called him a lot of things, but I guess the man with the golden ear, that was his.
Well, wasn't I'm a Believer by Neil Diamond. Neil Diamond, before he himself really hit it big as a solo, but he was already performing.
I'm a Believer, and that other song, Little Bit Me, Little Bit You, that was Neil Diamond for the Monkees also.
Can say in a roundabout way Neil Diamond might be in this list, even though I'm a Believer is not their theme song. It's synonymous with the TV show.
It is.
So we can give him special credit on that one. As we went in, we didn't end up with as big of a playlist as we usually have for these shows. I believe we have 21 that we came up with that would be kind of fitting. I mean, there's dozens and thousands, maybe even, of TV show themes over the years, but which ones were memorable and which ones were what I would say would be signature songs of the artist because they didn't just do that TV show theme. They tried to get into pop music, or they were in pop music in some cases. And but this song is what is associated with them going forward. The first one gave the name of the episode for the fact that we mentioned earlier, the Cheers theme, where everybody knows your name. And that was artist named Gary Portnoy. Now, in many of these cases, and we'll go down, then we'll try to hit them kind of fast even, because a lot of people aren't going to know who Gary Portnoy is, but they'll certainly know the theme
song. I barely know who the guy is, but I don't think I can name one other song that he did. It was his lone hit. He issued an overlooked self-titled solo album on Columbia Records in 1980.
Yeah, I saw that.
He also wrote the themes for Punky Brewster and Mr. Belvedere, two wildly popular shows.
I believe that was set in Pittsburgh.
Beaver Falls. It was actually Beaver Falls, Mr. Belvedere.
All right, Mr. Belvedere.
I think they even mentioned that the bakery a couple times on the show, Orms.
Okay.
Which
I
is
did not watch. I can't say I never watched Mr. Belvedere, but
Bob Uecker, I think.
Yeah,
Bob he was the guy.
He passed recent. The great ones are all leaving us.
That's true. That is indeed true. But that definitely Gary Portnoy's standout hit there.
Yeah, probably one of those things where he knocked it off in like 2 hours in a studio like that, and it's just one of many things he performed, and he's like, oh, this will never amount to anything. I hope he gets some royalties from it.
I'll bet he does. Like by that time, I think the artists were in a pretty good position to benefit. If it had been 20 years earlier, he would have claimed somebody ripped him off or whatever. But I think they had that fixed up pretty good. I don't know if you can
I have
live
to say,
off of one.
I remember being, we used to go to record stores and pour through the, that was what, mid-'80s, right? That's early 80s, mid-'80s. I remember seeing a 45 single for Where Everybody Knows Your Name.
I'm here. I'd like the Gary Portnoy record,
I'm sure
please.
If they got requests for it, they would hustle it out. And he was probably an unknown who became known for particularly that song. Another one, the next one that sort of came to mind and to us was opposite. Somebody who was an established rock. I don't know if he himself was a star, but he was in a group that was an established rock act. He went on to become a solo artist and had some hits on his own. John Sebastian and the Welcome Back Kotter theme.
Yeah, he was. Definitely his signature solo tune,
Right.
and his voice is pretty distinctive. So anybody that had listened to the Lovin' Spoonful
The Lovin'
would have
Spoonful,
known
yes.
that he was, that was John Sebastian, because he probably sang the lead on most of their big hits. Lovin' Spoonful, they're like mid 60s sort of. Wouldn't necessarily call them psychedelic, but I think they were part of that California scene, San Francisco, LA, those areas. And of course, what were their songs? Do You Believe in Magic? Summer in the City.
The one I've been humming in my head for several days. What a day for a daydream.
What a day for
a daydream. Diane's like, stop singing.
Yeah, that's a little. It's almost like a little psychedelic there. The way they had that going.
Daydreaming boy.
Like, I don't think they were together as a group very long. Maybe a couple years, and had a few big songs, and then kind of went their separate ways, and then all of a sudden John Sebastian is
I just surfaced with that song.
resurfacing with the Welcome Back Kotter.
I kind of pictured they were a lot like, maybe they were building off the popularity of Donovan, because they
Could be,
kind of
yeah.
had that kind of whole Donovan
A lot
thing.
of those sort of that, it had that trippy psychedelic feel. That was, of course, that was very big then. The 60s, 7, what was that, Summer of Love, and
Yes.
all of those
A lot of
things.
the paisley and the watercolors.
People were, Sergeant
Age
Pepper,
of Aquarius.
the whole thing there. Even that song, what was that? Peter, Paul, and Mary, I Dig Rock and Roll Music. That kind of had a little psychedelic overtone to it there. So even they were trying to get in on the act.
I was too young for that. You were too young for that, probably. But we were just coming of age. I'd say, was that 76? That Welcome Back Kotter came out, 75, 76.
Yeah.
And we were 10, 11 years old. We were coming aware. I was coming aware of music and TV shows where I was very aware of the TV themes. And some we'll talk about down the line here. Laverne and Shirley and Happy Days were big for kids our age would watch those. We were allowed to watch those.
Well, there was a big, the 70s at that time, there was a big nostalgia craze in the country for the 50s and 60s, because you had, of course, the movie American Graffiti, which takes place actually in the early 60s. And then, like you mentioned, Happy Days, Laverne and Shirley, Grease.
Yeah,
which started as a musical.
Get into movie themes being Siggy's, maybe because we could do that another episode on that. But like the theme from Shaft, for example, was in that era, that was both a movie and it became a TV show, so it kind of has an asterisk on it. Those, I guess we were talking about not just the TV show, but the theme music became part of the lexicon for the show, if you will.
And you dig it?
Shaft. Just talking about Shaq. Yeah, that definitely made his career, and basically until he was 90s, appeared on that cartoon.
South Park,
yeah. I would laugh at that. I didn't laugh much at that show. Being a Simpsons fan, I was inclined to not like South Park, but I laughed at the Isaac Hayes bits that they had in there. What was his character?
He was the chef.
The chef. So that was like the 70s were filled. We were just becoming aware of those things. We were watching them, and it wasn't like the 60s where, and we have some of those in here, like the theme from Gidget. I was also humming that in my head for a while.
Well, that was
James Darren.
James Darren, although I think he actually might have done it for the movie, and I think the TV show is actually got Johnny Tillotson, who had some hits in the late 50s through the mid 60s. I mean, he was a James Darren kind of sounding guy. There were some of those guys that had some hits, sort of, I guess, people in that teen idol kind of mold. But and James Darren, of course, went on to such heights as T.J. Hooker. So,
well, I don't know if heights is the word for that, but it was a show that we appreciated anyway. Maybe because of the blatant
on
overacting
with
in it.
William Shatner.
Yes.
How bad can it be?
Adrian's bed. How could you ever
Yeah, there's a
forget
guy
him?
who was a major star.
Happy Days was probably, I don't know about you, but it was my favorite show for a good long time when I was a kid.
Which started out, actually, people may not realize, as a little vignette episode on Love American Style.
That's right.
That is, it was called Love in the Happy Days. And I think the only two people that might have been in it were Ron Howard and Anson Williams. I don't know if the parents were in it also. Marion Ross might have been in it. But
Cindy Williams in that is maybe not as Shirley. But
you
she
might be thinking of American Graffiti.
I didn't
which
think
she
of
was
that.
in
Please retract that. People.
with Ron Howard.
That's right.
But,
that's why I was thinking of that.
But that's how Happy Days started. It was like in one of those little vignettes on Love American Style.
Yeah, no Fonz yet at all.
No
He was sort of an
Fonz.
afterthought, honestly.
Him,
to that
and
show.
I don't even think the Ralph Malph guy was initially. I think they kind of added him in
probably,
there as well.
Once you got the committee involved, they started adding characters. Oh, let's give her a sister, give him a sister, and the brother that'll never talk in the show, and then he'll disappear.
Well, that was Gary Marshall.
Yeah.
I mean, Gary Marshall was. You gotta give the guy credit. He knew what would. What would work. He probably thought, well, the brother wasn't going to work, but the Ralph Malph or the Fonzie guy, that's going to work.
People are responding to this guy who goes the A.
Sure.
Yeah, so it's good. Let's put a leather jacket on him and give him more of a role.
Although I think Fonzie initially had a windbreaker.
Yes,
like
he had
was
like
kinda
a
wearing
he had like a
windbreaker.
tan kind of. He didn't look too menacing.
Not as threatening with a windbreaker.
And he was always a little bit subdued in the first couple seasons too. Like almost to the point that he seemed unhinged in the show. Like, this that was menacing, but
They
not
probably
the way they
were
wanted.
like, "Are we gonna make this guy? Is he gonna stay with
gonna-
us, or isn't he?" And he turned out to be like the most popular
the most popular
character on
in
the
TV,
show
let alone that show. And you couldn't get away. You had a good 5-year period.
until they jumped the shark. There, literally.
If you read Henry Winkler's biography, he was blown away by the success of that. He just could not get away from it. And in fact, it consumed him for a while. It was all encompassing of his life. He couldn't
Well,
get
he
away
was
from
in
it.
I think before Happy Days, he was in a movie and they had noticed him. I think Lords of Flatbush, and I think
Yes.
Sylvester
Stallone was in that.
might have been one of his first movies.
Yeah, and they
if
remained
not
friends all through.
his first movie. And then, of course, I guess while he was still doing Happy Days, I think that was like one of Ron Howard's first movies was Night Shift. And he was in Night Shift with Pittsburgh's own Michael Keaton.
Yeah, big Pirates fan. I particularly wanted to call attention to the Happy Days because I'm going to put that out to everybody who remembers Happy Days and who enjoyed the theme song for Happy Days. And two different pieces of interesting information about that is that in at least the first season, the Happy Days theme was not the Happy Days theme.
Correct.
It was Rock Around the Clock.
Bill Haley and the Comets.
Bill Haley and his Comets. And we put that in our playlist. It was interesting that I wonder if it was a point of not wanting to pay royalties on it.
Probably was a
or
point of
wanting
we
to-
could make
we could
money
make more money if we
by
make this popular.
Getting somebody to
song.
write a
Yes.
song that we can put out because they had that Happy Days record, the one with
Yeah,
the,
yeah. And
the
I had
Happy
it.
Days sort of
I had it. I think everybody I knew
logo
had it.
on
had
the
the
front.
Had the Fonz on it. It had the Fonz on
Yeah,
it.
there was something like the Fonzarelli
The
slide or
Fonzarelli
something.
slide. That was like not
Yeah,
even close to sounding like.
no, it was like the Happy Days
It's like-
theme, a couple of those bull tunes like the Fonzarelli slide, and a few 50s songs.
It wasn't even like the
by-
Fonzarelli slide. It was like so blatant. I'm going to look and see if that's that's such a stupid song. I'm going to see.
I
if
just
it's on,
thought
I'm
of
gonna
that.
see if it's on Spotify because
But-
it's so dumb.
But I did have the
like,
album.
They had it was ABC obviously tried to capitalize and doing like a spin-off thing or what do you call it when they combine two shows?
like a crossover.
Thank you. They had the characters from Uncle Back Cotter like interacting with the Fonz in that song. Do you remember that?
I don't remember that, but
Like, hey,
hey,
up
about the
your nose with the
whole
rubber nose.
up your that kind of thing. Vinnie Barbarino.
I'm quitting.
That
I might have to turn the mic off.
what they wouldn't do to try to sell a couple
I wasn't
of
even prepared to talk
records.
about that.
So they were figured. I'm sure they saw more potential money-wise in doing that than continuing to use rock around the clock.
Well, I like that though. You know, it was like when I was watching. I started from very first. Like the first year of Happy Days was pretty. It was kind of a slow show. Like it didn't have like it, and it actually to its fate to its.
Today they
benefit,
probably would have canceled it after the
right,
first
it didn't
season.
capture much attention, and it was really slow paced, and it was really about Richie and Potsy.
Right.
And just basically them trying to get through high school and
Trying to get girls and
yeah.
stuff.
And they would hang out together, and Potsy had a much bigger role. He must have been Anson Williams must have been like
Yeah, he was kind
PO'd
of
after he got kind of cut out of the show after so many years. He was a big part of that show in the first couple seasons.
and then he stayed on.
He
though,
stayed
even
on. They
after
found things for him to do.
Ron Howard
Yeah.
left the show.
Yeah, and he did. That's true. But I mean, he had been integral. He and Richie were the plots were about those two.
Well, they
typically.
started. That was that Love American style episode. It was the two of them.
Right. And then the Fonz, they were like they latched on to that, and they knew they had a gold mine there.
Oh,
so
sure.
Potsy was sort of out. It was Richie and Fonzie. I love that. I really liked it with Rock Around the Clock. And I remember when I started watching the next season, and you know, you expected to hear the drum 1, 2, 3. You know, as a kid, you're conditioned to expect the same thing again. And then it was like this new song.
Sunday, Monday,
Like, what the hell is this? And in fact, I didn't really like it at first when it was like that.
It kind of grows on you.
And then real quick, of course, you'd watch it for a few weeks, and it'd be like, yeah, I like that. I want to get that song. I started liking that song. When you went to the store and wanted to buy the 45 for that song, which is what you had to do, or you had your parents do. I was probably 11 or something when that was popular.
Blue Jay Records.
Yeah, you'd go to Thrift Drug. Or
yeah.
if you could get to the mall, you'd get to National
Music
Record
Land.
Mart or Musicland, whichever you might have. We had Musicland in our town mall.
Yeah, I think Shenango Valley Mall had a National Record Mart.
And you go to the 45 section, or you'd ask like the poor schmuck who was working there, who probably got asked that 1,000 times a day.
Yeah. I gotta get the Happy Days theme.
And they had it, you know. They had the 45.
Although not the Pratt and McLean version.
No,
which we're pushing here.
What a jip! Like you bought this thing, and maybe like your parents bought it for you. In my case, my mom probably. After we went to Sears to get Tough Skins, and I'm like, I said, "Mom, can we go to the record store?" And okay,
throw a penny in the fountain there.
Right? Can we get a soft pretzel
at the Dutch oven there,
Yeah, so-
and a frozen Coke?
So we go to Musicland, and in our town, Podunk Town, all this stuff was in like 20 feet of each other.
Yeah, there was even when that town mall opened, there was even like an Orange Julius in there.
And an arcade. That was the ultimate when
That's
you
right,
became
the
a
town
teenager.
mall arcade.
I wasted a lot of money on things like Pac-Man in there. But we went to the Musicland, and we found this 45, and took it home. And I had to get my dad's record player out. He had it packed in a closet. It was a weird setup. And it had a folding lid on it that came down, and the record player was on it.
Yeah.
And it was just this mysterious thing because it was in this dark closet. I don't know why he did that. It was space saving, I guess. He built it into a shelf in our closet. It was in our living room, dining room. Man, I could still see that now. And put that on, had that little plastic thing that fit into the middle of it.
Yeah.
So it could fit on the regular spindle. And started playing it. And we have the version, the Pratt and McLean version of Happy Days theme. And it said Happy Days from the TV show Happy Days on it. And you play it, it was not the same thing.
No, not the
It had the vague
official theme.
It wasn't even really even close as what they played on the show. It's almost like if a cover band in your local bar was playing.
Playing the Happy Days theme, and I don't understand why they can't have the real Happy Days theme. Like, who's
to this day?
preventing
I don't
that from
think
being
if you look
heard?
up the Happy Days theme in Spotify, that's what you get. You get the Happy Days by this group Pratt and McLean.
Yeah,
And you'd play it, and you're expecting you want to visualize the show starting with the neon lights. You hear this Monday, happy day. I mean, it's the same song, but it's not the same one that's on the show.
People.
And until we got that album you talked about, the Happy Days TV theme
which
album,
had
the actual theme, and it never credited it to any act.
It probably was some studio singers or whatever that they got together and they said, we're not going to have to pay these guys a lot. We already have them under contract or whatever.
True.
Here, sing the theme. Probably they never got any royalties on it or anything like that. They were just doing a job. They got paid to do a job. And then they put it on the album. We can sell lots of albums, which they did. That's how it happened.
I was offended by that. I remember, obviously you didn't have much of a life as a kid. Very inconsequential things could become very important to you. But I remember thinking at the time, this is a jip. Like, we went to all this trouble to get this record, and I was looking forward to playing it and hearing it and thinking of the TV show, and it's like, this doesn't sound like it. And it's to this day, you look it up, and I thought, well, maybe these guys wrote the song. Or the Sea Angels.
That certainly was a big disappointment.
Yeah, a little bit.
To me,
or the X-ray glasses.
Yeah.
They showed in the comic book where you like, oh, you can see through a women's dress with those. It's just see through anything. He just had like lines in front of your eyes.
What a rip-off.
This is probably not picking up Jamin out because he's pouring himself more coffee. He didn't. You're getting a little faint here, so I'll delay here, and I'll.
The hot coffee.
That's right.
The hot coffee.
But to this day, I said, I thought, well, maybe these Pratt and McLean guys, they might have written the song, so they're going to record it and they're going to try to get the money by selling the record of it. They didn't even write the song. The two guys that did the music for Happy Days. I can't think of the names right now. Fox, his name was Dennis Fox or something like that.
Gimbal and Fox or something.
And it's like, okay, well, how did these guys get the draw the long stick to be able to record this and make money off of it? I was impressed.
Like, wow, we're getting the Happy Days theme. We're really in the money now.
I tried to look it up, but there wasn't much of a story I could find on it. But it wasn't like they were like they were walking through the studio. It was like, hey, Pratt McLean, why don't you record this song? Somehow
maybe they just knew. Maybe they had an
somehow.
agent or knew somebody that knew somebody. It's like one of the other ones on here as we go, like the Mary Tyler Moore Show theme.
Right, good segue.
That guy Sonny Curtis, who was the guy that wrote the song and sang the song, he had a friend that told him, hey, this news show, they're looking for an industry contact. They're looking for a theme song. And Sonny Curtis, for those that don't know, has an interesting sort of background. His boyhood friend was none other than Buddy Holly. Yep, the Buddy Holly. And they actually were in some music groups, local music groups together before the Crickets started, before it became Buddy Holly and the Crickets. And then I think he might have even been in the Crickets initially, and they were still kind of a local band and not really going anywhere. And he ended up leaving to take a job as a musician in Slim Whitman's band or whatever.
That's quite a resume.
Hard to believe that at that time Slim Whitman was hotter than Buddy Holly.
Yeah. Well, he sold more records than Elvis and the Beatles. Right.
Yeah, so him and Boxcar Willie. But that probably had been like mid-50s. And then once Buddy Holly died, Sonny Curtis ended up rejoining the Crickets at that point, and he was a songwriter as well. He wrote what was the big song, Walk Right Back, for the Everly Brothers. I Fought the Law for Bobby Fuller 4. Probably a few others.
Imagine you have those two songs as the highlight of your resume. They're really incongruous,
And then of course, and I'm sure the Crickets might have even had a couple of minor hits after Buddy Holly had passed on. But then comes this opportunity, and he sang the song, and they liked the song, but they didn't even want him to sing it. They said, well, we'll get somebody else. I think that James Brooks liked him and liked the song, so they did it just as he basically presented it to them. And so certainly for Sonny Curtis as an artist, I'm sure that's definitely, as a solo artist, that's his signature song. Because I guess he was kind of like he was more of a country guy maybe than a pop or rock guy. But
if you're producing I Fought the Law, you're closer to country definitely than, I would say, than easy listening kind of love is all around.
Well, the Everly Brothers were kind of, I mean, they were rock, but they were kind of had a country sort of tinge to them, because they were from the country. They were from rural America. But, that was, I don't think there's anybody that doesn't remember that song, the theme song from the Mary Tyler Moore Show, although they may not have realized that Sonny Curtis was the guy that sang it and who he was. Although it was probably in the credits.
Most people. I'm a geek. I would read credits maybe, but most people, and you can't even read credits anymore if you watch a show. Like they show the screen,
right?
Split screen. Yeah,
screen
it's like
down.
you even wanted to read the credits. You'd be like, well, it's flying by real fast.
Well, I can tell you, especially now at 60, my eyes are pretty bad. Those words are pretty small.
But speaking of credits and not knowing who might have done a theme, but it was a big name, the Sanford and Son theme, which I think probably sitting here, a lot of people who might be making it this far in this episode, unbelievably. Check with your physician if you're making this far along in this episode.
Check with your psychiatrist.
Yeah, psychiatrist. Thank you.
More like it.
But Quincy Jones is the
Q.
The Q is the artist who is given credit for the Sanford and Son theme. In fact, we argue, and that's why it's in this list, that he was usually the producer of other artists, but he
typically
has his name on a good number of records as the actual artist of those records.
And this was I mean, probably ironically, his biggest commercial success is probably producing songs for Leslie Gore, who was a 1960s teen girl singer.
Yeah, starting out there, he was a band leader for Frank Sinatra.
Yeah, he did. He worked with pretty much everybody in the music business,
including his most spectacular success as a producer of Thriller by Michael Jackson and other Michael Jackson solo records.
Produced that Sinatra, "Fly Me to the Moon."
So no one's ever going to argue that the theme from Sanford and Son is the most fantastic effort of his career that he was involved in. He also produced "We Are the World," by the way.
Very recognizable, the Sanford and Son theme, even if you didn't watch the show.
We're talking about, it's probably an asterisk thing, but a song that he's billed as the artist for. There's a number of them. He did a few in the 80s, some joint efforts where, he's not singing or anything, but he can play instruments. And,
I don't think he was really a singer.
No, but he there's album of the 80s called the Quincy Jones Joint or something like that. And it was people like Ray Charles sang on it and Chaka Khan, but it was billed to him like they were secondary.
This is hot coffee and a Siggy breaking news.
As usual, our scatterbrained, poorly prepared host was off by a little bit, or maybe a lot, on that. Quincy Jones indeed did have an album that sounded like Quincy Jones Joint, but it was actually Quincy Jones Juke Joint, and that album was out in 1995. But the Chaka Khan and Ray Charles reference is actually from Quincy Jones' album Back on the Block, which was in 1989, and it produced a really big hit, I'll Be Good to You, which is billed to Quincy Jones, but also Ray Charles and Chaka Khan sing predominantly in that song. Now, the Quincy Juke Joint album is just a tour de force of just about any hot artist in R&B that you can probably think of in 1995 or thereabouts, and included the likes of Ray Charles and Shaka Khan, but also Coolio, Heavy D, Stevie Wonder, Babyface, Barry White, Gloria Estefan, R. Kelly, Brandy. He even had a collab with Bono and Phil Collins in this album. And it's amazing that it wasn't more widespread or successful than it was. And probably the biggest song from that album, I'd say, that got some play was the cover of Rock With You, the Michael Jackson song that Quincy produced on the Off the Wall album for Michael Jackson. But in this case, it was billed to Quincy Jones, but really sung by Brandy, with rapping by Heavy D. So there you are.
This has been Hot Coffee and a Siggy breaking news.
So I don't know if that's an asterisk on an asterisk, but the Sanford and Son theme, I think anyone at least our age, but probably even younger, anyone who watches daytime or not daytime, but syndicated TV, it's big. I mean, that show is one of those, no, it's not a Norman Lear, I don't think, but it was in that vein.
Yeah, I think it is.
Is it a Norman Lear? Okay.
It is a Norman. It's based on, I want to say, it was taken loosely from an English
Steptoe
show, Steptoe and Son, and an interesting bit of trivia is the guy who played the Fred Sanford-like character in Steptoe and Son was an actor named Wilfred Bramble. And people may not, in this country, know Wilfred Bramble, but he played Paul's grandfather in The Hard Day's Night.
You've told me that before. That's the only reason I know. But I remember the character distinctly. Yeah, that's hilarious. If you like music and you like the Beatles and you've never seen Hard Day's Night, you find a way to get a hold of that and watch it. It's really funny. That Sanford and Son theme is the most, to me, the TV thing without any words. It has a really interesting sound to it. As a kid,
captured it. It's a 70s kind of funky.
Yeah, it kind of reminded me of the Fat Albert theme a little bit.
It's like it did a good job at setting the mood for the show, which of course took place in sort of that Watts, El Segundo area. You know,
he could say Red Fox's. I didn't even know how dirty he was at the time. I'm a kid watching the show. He could just say things and be funny.
They
just
said
the way
that
he'd
was
say
the
them.
challenge on the show was getting him to be clean, like to not swear and be really dirty. And they said that Ann Esther lady, LaWanda
worse,
Page, she was like the female Red Fox, and it was, and of course he played like a religious, like a church going lady. But I mean, you figure great characters on there: Bubba, Grady, Rollo, Woody, Esther, Skillet, Leroy. Just some great. Just
the two cops. What were they called?
Oh, Smitty and Hoppy.
Yeah, I'd always laugh.
Well, first it was some guy Swanee, and then it was Smith. But I mean, just like great characters, a great show. And
my dad, my parents. There's only 3 channels, so you had to watch whatever your parents watched. We had one TV in the house, but it usually would watch something like Barnaby Jones or something. But
Quinn Martin production.
But if they had on, my dad loved All in the Family.
Great shows.
But he also loved Sanford and Son. I couldn't really, as a little kid, I kind of liked All in the Family for reasons I shouldn't even. Edith made me laugh because of the way she acted. I didn't understand the stories as much. But even I was laughing at Sanford and Son. It was just over the top.
Yeah, these guys.
Just the set with all that junk on the
set. The junk, just like I say, a lot of great supporting characters. Even some of the just the guest stars that were on, they were funny too. Everything, it was just a funny show.
It was meant to be. It wasn't meant to really be too. All in the Family had a different agenda,
right?
Sanford and Son was for laughs.
Sanford and Son, and it was and these people were kind of living in squalor, but they didn't seem to be all that depressed. They were.
No, they were
funny.
just living their lives, and their lives were over the top. They're comical. It made its point probably without making the point that was a pretty dilapidated, depressed area, and it was
no heavy message though in Sanford and Son. I don't think, as opposed to All in the Family.
probably if it had
which
been
was maybe
made 20 years later, yeah, they would have pounded you over the head with that, and maybe for good reason. At the time, it set the theme, with the theme of the show, which is that music just kind of got you kind of revved up. So it was I thought, very effectively done, and it's a word. I think it's a word that he recently passed too, Quincy Jones. See, recently within the last year or so.
Yeah, that's right.
He probably would have balked maybe if somebody said your signature song is the Sanford and Son theme, but he shouldn't. If he did, who knows? But
I'm sure it's one of those. I mean, the guy
should have been proud of it. I thought it was very good.
Such a long and varied career.
It fit the show perfectly. It had the right sound. Which other ones in our list?
Well, let's see here. We've got the Gilligan's Island theme.
That was weird. Again, this is one I couldn't find the actual. There were two different ones.
Somebody named the Wellingtons.
The Wellingtons were the group that performed it in both. I think both. It's another one. The first year was black and white.
Right.
Of Gilligan's Island. I didn't know this till way after because I was a kid and the show wasn't even on regular TV anymore. I'd watch it after school, syndicated. You'd come home at 4:00 and it would be on TV. So I didn't like the black and white ones as well. And the black and white ones had that more dreamy kind of theme to it.
Right.
I'll sit back and you hear a tale. And
was it a different group? Or
no, it was the same group. Both the Wellingtons, but they remade. It was successful enough. Back then, it was weird. TV seasons were like 30 episodes, like real.
Right.
It wasn't like they are today when they're like 12
Well, yeah,
episodes.
they say, well, we'll give you a 5 and we'll see how it's working.
Yeah.
And if it works good, maybe we'll give you another 5 and go from there. Yeah, in those days, they'd give you you get 30, 32 episodes. You get a whole season. And if it didn't, they weren't likely to cancel you. Maybe after the first season they would, but you'd at least get a season.
Yeah, and
to do your thing.
The first year was black and white. They didn't invest in. Usually that happened a lot. Bewitched was like that. I Dream of Jeannie. If the show was successful,
then they would go.
Then they would, they'd spend the money and do color. The second year they did, and then I guess to commemorate that for whatever reason, they re-recorded the theme, and it was much more of like a cartoony kind of theme.
Right.
And there were so many more episodes of the color, and I thought they were better anyway. They were funnier.
Some better people getting stranded on the island.
And Professor and Mary Ann got credit in the song. In the theme song.
Well, I think there was a thing about that. Bob Denver, I think was the guy.
Yeah.
He insisted on that, or he said he was out.
Wow, I didn't know it was that.
Something like that, or
level.
he said, or put me last, or whatever.
Wow, okay.
But he didn't.
Wow, props to Bob Denver. I give him that.
He didn't think that was right. Well, he was the star of the show.
Yeah, that's right.
It was Gilligan.
There's no show without Gilligan. Yeah.
It was, and that show. There's some trivia. The guy who was first offered the part of Gilligan and turned it down was Jerry Van Dyke.
Uh-huh.
And he ended up doing a show called My Mother the Car, which I guess has gone down as one of the worst sitcoms.
That's right.
In history.
It's like so bad it's good. Like people try to find it.
And he ended up, he said,
marvel at how bad it is.
After my agent convinced me to take My Mother the Car, he said, after that show, he said, I fired my agent because obviously he didn't know anything.
Well, the second, it was just like the Happy Days theme. I was like, what the hell is this? When I remember when I moved into the color episodes, that theme song sort of hit you in the face. Once you were in those episodes, but then I got accustomed to it, and I was like, "Well, I like this one better because I like these episodes better. Plus, I like Mary Ann, and Mary Ann's getting credit. I didn't care about the professor.
Well, I think Mary Ann liked you too.
Yeah, well, I had to get a restraining order.
I think she died not too long ago.
Yeah, but she was probably one of the last ones. I think.
That Tina Louise, I think, is still alive.
She's still the only one. I think she's the only one left. Yeah,
I think
she hated that being associated with that show.
She embraced.
I think eventually she
later,
did. Yeah,
she finally was at peace with the fact that it was, hey, look, it was a job, it was a show. You're recognized as because I don't think she did any of the reunion movies.
Right, there was always another different actress with the red hair and ample cleavage.
Sure,
to put it cleanly.
And the funny thing is, after Gilligan's Island, she didn't really do anything.
I defected. I was typecast. I couldn't get other jobs.
Well, that's what Fred Gwynne said after The Monsters. Tough to get another role when you're Herman Munster.
Maybe wrapping things up here early in this episode.
Yeah, well, that's
for
good.
a change. I come down to like the two. If you needed to find some songs that were Siggy's and theme songs, both that had like street cred more or less, like they were by artists and they were kind of songs that were legit in music without needing to be associated with the TV show. The two I came up with in this list, you can now hold on me there, but I have Bubba O'Reilly by The Who, and I have Bad Boys by Inner Circle.
Well,
both of those.
I guess. Like,
now you don't know Bad Boys too much. I'm sure.
I've
Inner
heard
Circle
the song.
is like a Caribbean kind of soul band.
I've heard the theme. I mean,
but
I know
those were songs that were popular songs, and they're Siggy's for those artists. I know The Who could be more debatable. Inner Circle by far had a lot of hits, and Bad Boys is the one they're known for most. And it's sort of intertwined. It's like the TV show probably affects that. Cops, which was the theme,
right?
They picked it for. That probably influences that being their signature song. Now, Bubba O'Reilly, that was a huge song for The Who way before
but I
the
don't think that's
CSI
their
New York
signature
song. I know we've argued about that before. Actually, when I first put the list together way back when, I had My Generation. I had that as their Siggy. But then, like, watched a lot of TV during the pandemic, some of these CSI shows, and Bubba O'Reilly was the theme song for those. And it was, they didn't play the whole song. They could only play the synthesizer part at the beginning of it.
Could be Eminence Front, wasn't it?
Eminence Front. That's when the
wasn't that the 80s?
The perennial farewell reunion tour.
Oh, what was that song? You Better, You Bet. That was a big song.
I like that song. I didn't dislike Eminence Front either, but by the 80s they were trying to stay relevant to Who. Pete Townsend was working on his own solo stuff as well.
Right.
I think they were trying to latch on to the newer sound of the new British.
Well, as everybody
revolution.
at that time was trying to have a commercial hit.
Yeah, and they were using synthesizers more. But they were like, what's interesting was that Pete Townsend was very big into that early on before many other acts were. And he did a lot of synthesizer work and his own solo music in the 70s. But by then, and the British New Wave groups had kind of passed them by. They were...
Well, they didn't have anything left to prove at that point.
It's kind of a mixed feelings on that they would sell their souls more or less to a American TV detective show for their theme, but maybe they needed the money.
Money's the money. Well, one of them needed the money. That's usually the thing, and they just convinced the others. He's bringing the paper out. Now, if you sign this here, we can get this money.
John Entwistle maybe needed some money, and
or maybe
John Bonham's kids.
Maybe he was the holdout. Maybe he's like, I'm not signing.
I won't sign that bloody TV theme crap. Pete probably had to be the one who proved it because he wrote most of the songs. He was a complex character. Still is. Still out there kicking. Yeah. We did a grab on Pete Townsend. You can look that up on Instagram, where we do a daily Siggy of the day. We do a little, for us, short vignette video. You get to see our faces and everything.
Like 2 minutes.
Or if you're smart, you'll close your eyes and just listen to it. But Bubba O'Reilly was a song from 1970, 71. I think it was Who's Next, maybe, was the album.
Yeah.
And I could be wrong. Bombard me with hate mail, if you will. But that was a big FM radio, one of those songs where we talked about before. It was probably like 6-7 minutes. DJs would put it on and go get a smoke or what have you. And it was long because it had that really long synthesizer beginning to it. If anyone watched Family Guy, there's an episode of Family Guy where Peter does a flashback scene where Lois is accusing him of throwing up in the sink, and before he admits to doing it, he's like, "Hold on, Lois," and he turns on Bubba O'Reilly, and they just stand there for the whole like 2 minutes of the synthesizer. It's like, I don't know.
Like, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Conway.
Yeah, so it's like just one of those absurd things. And they just he stands there holding a boombox playing the beginning of Bubba O'Reilly before he ends up to throwing up in the sink. But I'm sure they get paid for that too. So Pete's been cleaning up on TV in the 2000s here. Somehow CSI in New York decided that Bubba O'Reilly would be the perfect opening for that show, and got their permission. I don't know if they got permission or paying the royalties, and didn't really care what they did with it. But that song had a lot of cred from way back, and probably anyone who watched that show, maybe their parents knew, but if they're younger people, they probably had no idea that's a Who song. And it was a big FM hit for the Who. Bad Boys is similar. It was already a song. It was a pop song. Like I said, it's Caribbean soul, I guess you would call it, the best way to Caribbean hip hop. And the show Cops, which was, I guess it started on Fox, right?
Yeah, I think that was a Fox.
Yeah, when Fox was throwing anything they could on to try to compete.
Although I can remember Fox, like the Sunday night lineup was big with the In Living Color, The Simpsons,
Married with Children.
Well, in between like The Simpsons and Married with Children, they had a couple different shows they tried. One was called Herman's Head, if I remember.
That show, yeah.
And the other one was the one with Chris Elliott, where he's living with his parents or something in the basement, and his father was actually his father. And I want to say that
Bob
the mother
and Ray.
Was Eleanor Donahue.
I don't remember that.
Was from Father Knows Best in the Andy Griffith Show. And
what was that show actually called? Was it called the Chris Elliott Show?
I think it was.
This is Hot Coffee and a Siggy breaking news.
Another point of embarrassment for your host, talking about the sitcom starring Chris Elliott on Fox. It was actually called Get a Life, not the Chris Elliott Show. It aired from 1990 to 1992. But probably the most interesting thing about this show that would have been very applicable to this episode of our podcast is the theme song for Get a Life. Chris Elliott was able to get REM to give their song Stand as the theme song for Get a Life. Now, Stand is not REM's signature song. There would be some debate about that, but it probably comes down to The End of the World as We Know It or Losing My Religion. I have it as the former in the list. I think Jamin would call it the latter. However, my favorite REM song is neither of those. It indeed is the song Stand. It is not the Siggy, but it's in my should-be Siggy list.
This has been Hot Coffee and a Siggy breaking news.
Because he goes, and his dad, of course, from the comedy team, Bob and Ray. And he was like, what did he say? Lines like, my heart tells me you're right, but my head tells me you're a horse's ass or something.
I remember that. Yeah.
Something like that.
Because my dad probably told me that, too. If he were still with us, he'd be telling me that right now.
He'll give the devil his due.
Yeah, my dad, I get to turn. He's a lot of my musical tastes, or whether I realize it or not at the time, it was formed by what he liked and what we'd listen to in the AM radio in the car and watched on TV as well. Because if we didn't watch Sanford and Son, I wouldn't even be too aware of the Sanford and Son theme. Those are, I'd say,
I think we hit the hot spots.
This is, like I said, this is not one of those things where we ended up with like 70 songs on a playlist and it would take us 2 episodes to cover. We will release the link to Where Everybody Knows Your Siggy with our link to this episode. And if you're in a mood to try to get an idea, are we right, are we not right, for the TV shows that we picked, and there's a lot on here we didn't even touch. Joey Scarberry, believe it or not, from Greatest American Hero.
The Friends theme.
The Friends theme by the
Rembrandts.
Rembrandts. I thought that was a little too obvious because everybody knows that. Everybody knows your name. But everybody knows the Friends theme, too, and they knew it was the Rembrandts. It wasn't much of a story. They didn't have too many other hits. I mean, they may have released records, but they didn't have hits. They tried to capitalize on it, and they had a number of records. They had a record deal before that, and they did after, especially because of the theme, but nothing really ever clicked with them, I don't think. We have, like, Thank You for Being a Friend, which there's kind of a weird story there. Andrew Gold is the composer of that, I believe.
Yeah, composer, and he had a version
yes.
that was a hit, but this other version that they recorded for the Golden Girls, the girl, that was also, I guess, then the song got renewed interest because that guy Andrew Gold, he had a few
hits.
solo
I don't even
hits.
would consider it a
Lonely
song.
Boy.
Right.
I
would
think
say that's his
big
Siggy. So
song.
his Siggy, but he's the composer of this song that this Cynthia Fee, I'd say gets the credit for that's her signature song, even if she didn't write it. And it's for that show. And it's such a big show. Of course, the Golden Girls has lived on in syndication, even more popular than it was a regular show.
Thanks to B. Arthur.
And Estelle, what's her name?
Yeah, Estelle Getty.
Getty, yeah. Another one that we thought we might touch on real quickly because we have a friend who's a big They Might Be Giants fan, and there aren't too many of those. So, but there are some, and we matched up lists when we did research on this of recommendations of artists who might be considered a Siggy song. It's a TV theme. And there's a show called Malcolm in the Middle. It was on in the early 2000s. And They Might Be Giants provided the song that became the theme of that, which is called Boss of Me. And a lot of people consider that should be their signature song because of that TV show. But I would contest that because they had a number of other songs for those who know that group that would not necessarily be the ones that I would consider to be the signature song of They Might Be Giants.
I'm kind of indifferent.
I don't think you're too familiar with them.
No,
but,
well, I wouldn't say that.
There's two songs that I would consider to be their signature song, and that's Istanbul, Not Constantinople.
No, that song I have heard.
Yeah, and
was that 80s or that?
Yeah, I'd say late 80s into the 1990s.
I've heard that song.
And the other is Birdhouse in Your Soul. Now, my friend, our mutual friend Mike, I would say he says Birdhouse in Your Soul by far is their signature song.
Maybe I've heard that.
I put them in our list because I'm kind of a fan, and I thought it was Istanbul, not Constantinople. I did not even think of Boss of Me, to be honest, because I wasn't a big Malcolm in the Middle guy.
No,
the show was on, and I caught it here.
Who was the big star in that show, or was there any big star in that show?
The guy who played Tim Watley on Seinfeld.
Brian.
And
he was in Breaking Bad.
Breaking Bad, yeah, he's probably more known for that, but I didn't watch that much either.
Not as Tim Watley in Seinfeld.
Watley
breakout role.
Yeah, he was the star of that, but it was a ensemble group. He was appropriately goofy in the show.
Is he still around, that kid?
Probably I'm not so good at modern TV, and people would say I'm not very good at modern music either. But
I'm certainly not. If you're not, I'm certainly not. I guess
Bryan Cranston was the dad, and Frankie Muniz was Malcolm. I cheated and looked that up.
The only other one I would mention here, because I think just because it was a big show, was the MASH theme.
Yes.
Suicide is painless, and there actually are words to the song. In fact, they might have had them in the movie version with Elliot Gould
right.
and Sally Kellerman. And who was the other? Donald Sutherland. So but I guess it was very the words is very depressing.
Yeah, it sure is.
Morose
right
song. And so they just basically
the theme itself is depressing enough, let alone the words.
An instrumental version of the song by Johnny Mandel. And for people who don't know much about Johnny Mandel, he started in the big band era, big band trumpeter and trombonist, and became a major film composer and arranger in Hollywood from the late 50s on. So he did a lot of soundtracks from different movies, and probably best known for that MASH theme. So.
And with that's a good way to, I believe, end our TV show themed Siggy episode. Again, where everybody knows you're Siggy. We'll be releasing this soon, and we'll have the link to the playlist. And if you want an idea of TV shows gone by and how some of their theme songs made a career for these folks, check it out. You can always skip through it after. But the good thing about TV show themes is they're not very long.
No, that's true.
Sort of like Halloween songs. If you can't stand Monster Mash, and just sit tight because it's only like a minute and a half long, and it'll end. So we thank you for listening, and remember, as my daughter would tell me to remember to tell people, subscribe to our channel on the Hot Coffee and the Siggy channel on YouTube,
Right.
and the add Hot Coffee and the Siggy to your Spotify podcasts, and you'll be getting notifications of new episodes every time we put them out.
Check
and our
out
website, of course, hotcoffeeandthesiggy.com.
Check out the website and send an email, hotcoffeeandasiggy@gmail.
And we're very happy and willing to accept ideas for new episodes, new songs for some of these categories that we might have skipped right over, and I get reminded of things I forget all the time. So thank you very much, folks, for listening, and we'll catch you in the next episode.
See you next time.